Now we all, I think, love sewing, but sometimes we find ourselves in a little demotivated phase for one reason or another. You don't really know what to make next, you certainly don't want to cut it out even if you do, and before you know it, weeks or even months have passed since you last contemplated threading a needle. Well, we've all been there, but as a superlatively lazy person myself, allow me to offer you these, I guess, 7+ ideas for finding your way back into the sewing groove, for getting, if you will, your sojo back. Number 1, simple but effective. Even if you don't especially think you need yet another pair of frilled lycra hot pants, think of the project that brought you the most joy and simply repeat it. You don't always have to be expanding either your skills or your horizons. It is perfectly fine to take a bit of rest in the happy place of your favourite project. It will probably be even easier than the last time, so you'll have plenty of space simply to revel in the process and look forward to the end product without fearing some catastrophic error. I find I'm a bit like this with books, and maybe you are too, or films or TV or whatever it might be. If I'm out of my reading rhythm too long, I just pick up an old favourite and let it bring me back in sync. I may feel as though I shouldn't be wasting time retreading old ground, but as Vladimir Nabokov himself put it, a good reader is a rereader. And I'm quite sure he would have said the same thing too about people who make frilled lycra hot pants. Run it back, rinse and repeat. Maybe you've been curious about bias-bound seams or embroidery, or perhaps you've even considered going acoustic and sewing a whole project by hand. If there is any such technique that you've always wanted to try out, then maybe now's the time. Rather than straining to think of an interesting project out of thin air, start first with the technique and let that determine what it is you actually sew. Embroidery's calling? Maybe make a kimono and do some sashiko. Bias-bound seams? I'd say that calls for an unlined jacket, for instance. I find that the excitement and/or the healthy challenge of tackling a new sewing technique can be just the thing for reviving your fascination in sewing overall. Or, don't make me say it, for replenishing your sojo. Have you always wanted to make a Harris tweed jacket, a real silk dress, or maybe some raw denim jeans you felt unsure about, or perhaps even unworthy of, using these marvellous fabrics? Now, for many of us, it might be that we've held off using them for budgetary reasons, and I'm not trying to suggest that you remortgage your house to buy a roll of Vicuña wool, although. But if you can manage it financially, then perhaps now is the time to take a swing at one of your dream fabrics and allow yourself to be beguiled back into sewing shape by its specialness. As with a new technique idea, you would then start with the fancy fabric and let that lead you to the appropriate project for it. The fabrics that I happen to have mentioned just now are indeed outright fancy fabrics, but maybe your dream fabric isn't actually a bank breaker. Maybe it's that you're in love with a certain weave or a pattern or a print, but you just weren't yet quite sure whether it was something for you. But if you are languishing in the sewing doldrums, I would say now is the time to try and find out. Plus, we all love a little treat every now and then, and you deserve it, I think. I hope. Swinging the other way, I suppose, you might find it best simply to get a score on the board, as it were, and make the simplest, quickest thing that you can think of. I know in my own case that when I have gone for stretches without sewing for a little while, it's been because of work or other life busyness just filling up my head. And the longer I do go between projects, the more the idea of picking one out, cutting it, sewing it, emotionally adjusting to the mistake-ridden result seems like more fuss than it's worth. And in this case, I really do think the best thing to do is simply to lower the stakes with the easiest thing that comes to mind. What really matters is breaking the not sewing streak. It's kind of like with exercise. Not that I'm any kind of authority on that. Let's say you used to be quite a regular runner, but it's been a while since you last laced them up. Don't worry about your 5K PBs, just trot out the house for a 10-minute jog and shake off a bit of the rust. Now, some people are quite cautious about sewing for other people, and in a way I've been one of them myself. But depending on the people you have in your life, this can be a good one to have in your back pocket. If there's nothing you're really excited to make for yourself right now, but you are starting to miss your machine, then just consider making something for somebody else. Big or small, doesn't matter. Maybe just pick a friend or a family member who's got a birthday coming up and throw them something together. I find that the external responsibility helps me push through this initial demotivation, and also that new and interesting techniques are more often discovered when it's somebody else's tiger print pinafore on the production line. Bottom line, it can be a great way to enjoy the pure craft of sewing without having to imagine a place or a role for the end result in your own life. Okay, so these last two involve a little bit of vanity massaging, if you like. But we're all just flesh and blood, and I honestly don't think there's that much harm in occasionally allowing yourself to enjoy a little bit of kudos. Kudos? 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 No. So, if, like me, your wardrobe is only partly self-sewn, I say take a couple of days to make a point of dressing up in the things you have made as much as you can. Invite a few compliments. Revel in the uniqueness of what you've got on. Remind yourself of the satisfaction, sense of independence that comes with going about the world in your self-sewn clothes. And as for somewhere more specific for you to go, I've got an idea about that too. Now, this might seem counterintuitive, but I do mean it. Have a wander through the clothes shops in your area and just assess what you find there. And I think there are two things that can come from this exercise. The first, in the spirit of inflating the old ego, is this. You can remind yourself that whatever's going on in there, you can do too. And perhaps even better. Now, I'm not saying that every item in every clothes shop is a piece of junk, but what it almost certainly isn't is unique, and what it quite certainly isn't is made by you. I find it to be a really precious thing about sewing, that sense of self-realization that comes with making clothes for yourself. And I find that reminding yourself of this is a surefire way of reigniting your desire to get back to the old thread and needle. But on the flip side, the other thing that might happen is that you might get inspired by something you see. Perhaps it's a particular garment you didn't even know existed, or perhaps just a quality or type of finish that you yourself would like to aspire to. That too, I find, can light a fire under the old proverbial tush. So, that's 7. But I said 7+ because obviously we are all different people. We all have different attitudes and different things that get us going. And so, much as with the 7th idea, it was possible to look at it both ways, allow me to suggest the same is true of the other 6. Perhaps a few days of wearing your self-sewn clothes actually reminds you of things you could have improved, things you'd like to expand on, or wardrobe gaps you'd like to fill. I think for lots of people that too can be a great motivator. Maybe the problem is that you're always sewing for other people and you need to make a point of doing one for yourself. Maybe instead of new techniques and new dreamy fabrics, you personally would get more momentum from returning to your own personal classics. Indeed, maybe instead of repeating your favorite project or going in for something super easy, what you actually need is to dive into something large scale or unfamiliar. Can I interest you in tailoring? Excuse me. But I think that if these 7+ ideas are of use, it's not because they're clear-cut plans or prescriptions for specific projects. Instead, it's that they're more like prompts to reflect on what it is you valued about sewing in the first place. Whichever perspective on them you end up taking, I hope they bring a little bit of Sojo back into your life. I know they have for me. If you're in the market for more sewing talk like this, not to mention plenty of sewing deeds, you can of course subscribe to the channel. In the meantime, if all that talk of sewing for other people got your blood boiling for one reason or another, then perhaps you'd be interested to hear my 5 pros and cons of that particular enterprise. And if I actually can interest you in tailoring, then perhaps you'd enjoy this bird's eye view of the linen suit project that is currently dominating my life. One of us might as well get something out of it.